What if I told you that today's global economy, the colossal corporations, free trade agreements, and the very idea of success, has roots that run as deep as the medieval markets of Venice, Florence, and Bruges? That the foundations of our modern financial world were laid by merchants, artisans, and traders? These unlikely pioneers were the seeds of a powerful social class, the bourgeoisie, and their story is one of grit, rebellion, power, and profit. Our journey begins in the free cities of medieval Europe. It was here, amid narrow streets and open markets, that the first traces of the bourgeoisie emerged. They were merchants, artisans, and tradespeople, a rising class who sought freedom from the chains of feudalism. They wanted more than survival. They wanted prosperity. Unlike the nobility, who relied on land ownership, the early bourgeoisie gained power through trade, skill, and craft. Cities like Venice and Florence flourished because of these merchants, their ships sailing across seas and carrying goods that fueled the growing urban economy. But it wasn't until the Age of Discovery that the bourgeoisie really began to reshape the world. With the decline of feudalism and new lands beckoning exploration, their ambitions grew. They financed voyages that brought back gold, spices, and silk. Massive fortunes flowed into Europe's cities. This was the turning point. The bourgeoisie now wielded enough wealth to demand a voice. And it wouldn't be long before they sparked some of the most dramatic political upheavals in history. Revolution was in the air. In England in 1640, and later in France in 1789, the bourgeoisie took center stage. They were the architects of change, tearing down the last remnants of feudalism and replacing them with a new economic order. Their vision? A world where markets thrived freely and economic opportunity reigned supreme. The ideas of Adam Smith, an advocate for economic freedom, fueled their ambitions. As liberal economic policies spread, the foundations of capitalism were laid, with the bourgeoisie at the helm. As the world plunged into the Industrial Revolution, the bourgeoisie rose to new heights. They funded inventions, invested in factories, and took risks on industries like textiles and mining. The railways, the lifeline of industrial capitalism, were made possible by their capital. But this progress came at a cost. As factories sprouted, so did social inequalities. While the bourgeoisie grew wealthier, workers faced grueling hours, unsafe conditions, and poverty. The industrial age was one of stark contrasts between those who reaped the benefits and those who bore the burdens. With wealth came ambition, and soon the European bourgeoisie set their sights on foreign lands. Colonialism was born, driven by the thirst for profit. Powerful companies, like the Dutch East India Company and the British East India Company, became the engines of this expansion, amassing vast fortunes and creating a global capitalist system. But the price of this growth was steep. Colonies were exploited, their resources stripped away, their people subjugated. The bourgeoisie's wealth was built on the backs of the colonized. Not everyone viewed the rise of the bourgeoisie as progress. Thinkers like Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels were among the first to argue that this class was exploitative, driven by an insatiable desire for profit. They warned that capitalism would lead to crises, instability, and social conflict. And history proved them right. Economic disasters like the Great Depression in 1929 and the financial crisis of 2008 exposed the darker side of the capitalist system, questioning the sustainability of a world driven by endless consumption. In the 21st century, the bourgeoisie has transformed once again. Today's bourgeoisie aren't just merchants and factory owners. They're CEOs, bankers, and tech moguls at the heart of globalization. Through multinational corporations, they shape policies, control resources, and drive the world economy, often transcending borders. But globalization hasn't eliminated inequalities. In fact, the gap between the wealthy elite and the struggling masses is wider than ever. Wealth is concentrated in fewer hands, and the challenges of automation, climate change, and economic shifts threaten the stability of this system. So where does this story leave us? The bourgeoisie has redefined itself time and again, and as the middle class adapts to a changing world, it remains the backbone of contemporary capitalism. Yet, with the rise of new technologies, growing economic challenges, and global shifts, one question looms large. What does the future hold for the bourgeoisie? Will they continue to innovate, Or will the contradictions of capitalism finally catch up?